last night, obviously. But I mean, why don't we get into breaking down this game a little bit here? What did you see from this game, Ryan?
I just saw a team that was totally overmatched and unprepared for that game, and it's crazy because it seems like it's just the same thing for the past 5 games about now. They play poor defense. They're a horrible 3-point shooting team, and it's just they don't have any go-to scorers. And the guys that we thought were on that level, some of them, they're not there yet. I mean, like Benedict Mathurin playing 27 minutes, 2 points, 4 rebounds. I mean, listen to this stat, and this is one of 2 reasons why I believe they haven't been winning basketball games. 3 players combined to shoot the ball 2 for 7 from the field. That's Koloko, Mathurin, and Kirk Kriisa. You can't have 3 starters 2 for 7 from the field, and they combined for 8 points. That's not. I'm tired of all this stuff with Sean Miller saying, "Oh, Koloko, defense this, defense that." You still need production. I don't care. It's on any level of basketball. You need some sort of offensive scoring, production from your big man. And Mathurin, I think we got to take a step back with him. I mean, I don't think he's on that elite level as we thought for a few games. I still see the flashes, and he has that NBA body and that potential, but I think we got to slow the brakes down on him.
Yeah, I think what I saw from this game is just that I think the game kind of proved to me that this team is just average. Like that's been the reality of this squad. I don't think anybody expected Arizona, to be winning the Pac-12 this season. I know we can sit here and tell ourselves that this team is underrated or that they're better than people think they are, but really this team is just average. I think 8-8 perfectly describes his squad. That's basically what Sean Miller was saying last night in the post-game press conference. Like, this UCLA team was just a really bad matchup for Arizona. I mean, you said they got physically outmatched. I totally agree. I think they got thumped the first time that they played each other, and then they did it again last night. There's just nobody on Arizona's roster that can guard Jaime Jaquez. Like, he seriously did not miss last night. And the Wildcats they just don't have anybody that can guard him. He just took over the game last night. It was simple as that. Like, Arizona, only has 2 true wing players, Dalen Terry and Benedict Mathurin, and neither one of them could stay in front of Jaquez last night. So, I mean, we can get into it later about, why this team is struggling so much and, why this team is only 8-8. But, so I'm not going to get into it now, but it's just what we've been seeing, like you said, the last 5 games or so. It's been the same story. This team is just average. They're better than ASU, so I mean we can always harp on that, but they're really just average. We've seen the same thing last night, which is the poor defense. Just foul trouble. We've seen it all before, right? And it was just another version of that game last night was what we've seen, a bunch of times before in this game or in this season.
Yeah, and as you said, average, and that's the best way to describe this team is average. They're all just average. I mean, the only guy that actually is the most consistent player, and I gave him the MVP award a few weeks ago for this team, is Jules Tabellas. I mean, last night again, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 8 for 12 shooting. He is the best player by far on this team and the most efficient player by far on this basketball team. And he's still keeping them alive. I mean, James Akinjo is just one of the most frustrating players, I've said it before, that I've ever watched in basketball. I mean, even last night, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, but he was 6 for 14, 2 for 6 from 3. He's a low, he doesn't shoot as a high, he's not a high percent shooter, and it really hurts the team. And off the bench, they really just get no production. I mean, off the bench, they're bringing Jordan Brown at 6 points. Then you got Ira Lee only played 5 minutes. He had 0. Of course, it wouldn't have changed. I mean, Dalen Terry had 2, and then you got Terrell Brown who had 5. Dalen Terry is I just don't know what's wrong with him. I really think there's something wrong with him. I mean, he showed too much scoring potential in high school to really just fall off the cliff this quickly. And I still believe in him, and I still think he has some potential, but it's just this team they don't have any structure and they don't have any leadership. Like, getting back to comparing it to last year's team, I feel like they just had better leadership and better veteran transfers. This year, I mean, Like James Akinjo, it's basically like when he transferred from Georgetown, the thing was about him, like everyone criticized him, was he's a bad passer. He doesn't want to pass. He's a score-first player, and it's basically the same thing here. And that doesn't equal winning basketball. You can see it with guys in the NBA like Russell Westbrook and others, and that's not like wins don't translate to basketball being played that way.
This team just feels like it's kind of dying out as the season goes, right? Like they just look like they didn't want it last night, and that's something that we've seen a couple of times over the last 5 games, like you've said. Like Arizona is just didn't show up last night again. They were, that we've seen it before. They get lazy and they just get bullied around. Like the rebounding for me, I think, was what frustrated me last night. And, UCLA just looked better inside against Arizona, which is actually weird because the stats don't really show it. I think Arizona actually out-rebounded UCLA by 1, and they had, I think 8 offensive rebounds or something like that. But it just didn't look like it, right? Like I counted way too many times last night where, the Wildcats had an inside position and they went up to go grab a board, but they somehow, some UCLA players somehow got it instead because they just out-hustled them for the rebound. Like Arizona just got physically outmatched last night, and that's been the common thing that we've seen here recently. They got bodied last night. They got bodied against Oregon last week too. Like, I don't know. It's just, not having Ira Lee for that, stretch there, I think hurt them a little bit, but I just don't know. I think Arizona is a good enough rebounding team to not be having nights like these. We've seen it before. Arizona statistically used to be one of the best rebounding teams in the conference. They were I think they had that stretch where they didn't, lose a rebounding battle. Like this is a good team, a good rebounding team when it wants to be. I just don't know what it is with them right now. It could just be the lack of effort, maybe the physical toll of the season is just finally catching up with them. I just don't know anymore, but this looks like a completely different squad than what we've seen a few months ago.
Yeah, and I think people mixed up the expectations of this team, and that's kind of why some people are frustrated, including myself. I mean, when coming into the year, I think they were ranked maybe at 7 or 6 projected according through a lot of websites, Pac-12 in the Pac-12 rankings. And then in the season, they were in the top 3 to 4 for the first few months and then fell off. But that's really, they're getting back to what people expected, and maybe they're playing even a little worse. But I mean, this team, I do feel for the players, the coaches. I mean, because I do believe that it probably is. I'm not going to leave them all off the hook. I'll get into Sean Miller a little later, but it probably is a difficult task to motivate a team that really has nothing to play for, and they haven't had anything to play for the whole season. So for older players on the team, it's probably tough to overcome that, and they're probably frustrated about that and frustrated when that announcement happened.